Hello everyone, this is Stephanie. Welcome to another video. So we're going to make beaded ornament covers today, and how fun is that? This was such a blast to make. So here it is off the ornament so you get an idea of what it looks like. I've done this one with super duos. This one I've done with mini round duos. You can pick out any kind of duo, two-hole bead that you have and see if it fits. So I'll just give you a look. This is what it looks like. It's hard for me to give you a hanging look because my camera points down, but I think it really came out pretty. So this will fit a 2.5, or whatever they are, 2.25 inch ornament to a 3.5. So this guy is the 3.5, and this is the one that I put on the 3.5. So it doesn't go down as far, but it's still, I think it's still really pretty. So these are going to be a lot of fun. We're going to make this red one today, and I'm also going to show you how to make these hooks. So if you want to make your own ornament hooks, you can make those. Now, I'm no expert at these, so there might be a better video out there for the hooks, but I think they came out okay. All right, so stay tuned. We'll get a materials list going, and we'll get started. Okay, let's get a materials list going. And don't these beads look delicious? I mean, look at all these bicones and beautiful drops, and oh, love it. Anyway, let's get started with the materials list. So you need some 11/0 seed beads. You need a 6mm pearl or round bead. You'll need some bicones, 4mm bicones. You'll need some super duos. I have drops here, and these are the drops that have the opening here and here, so vertically. And I think these are like about a 6x9 or 10x5, something like that. Then I have another drop. I've got the Swarovski 11mm Pear drop. I adore this. You can really substitute any drops you like. I have a few beads to make a beaded hanger with, and then you'll need some wire to make these hangers. This is a 20 gauge wire, and I think that worked pretty well. You'll need an ornament. So this is actually 3.5 inch, I think, in diameter, and size 10 beading needle, 8-pound Fireline black satin. We need a little stop bead, which here I'll pop this guy out. Why do I always forget to put the stop beads out? There you go. There's a stop bead. Like I said, you can substitute beads. It doesn't have to be a pearl. It doesn't have to be a bicone bead, but you'll need the two-hole bead. You'll need a 2-hole bead here. So that's why I'm using the Super Duo. But the other, as I showed you in the intro, the other ornament has this mini round duo, which absolutely adore that mini round duo. Just pull a little bit. You can try a gem duo or diamond duo. This little thing, I think it's called a Wibby duo. This might work. The only difference with some of them is like this one, I didn't, as we bead, I'll show you, I didn't put a seed bead in between each one, whereas the super duos I did. I'm not sure if you need it with this one. You don't need it with this one. And these are those, I can't remember the name of these. They're 2, 4, 6 sided. This might work, I don't know, but I would say just pop into your bead stash and look at all your 2-hole beads and play with it. See which ones will work. You can try a couple of units and see how it goes together. So a lot of fun to play with other beads with this. We're going to do the super duos. All right, so I'm going to clear this off and we'll get started. Don't forget to look in the description box for everything that you'll need. Every color, all the colors I've used, shapes, sizes, you name it, it will be there. Okay, thread your needle with about 6 feet of thread, put on a stop bead, and leave about a 10 to 12 inch tail, because we'll use that tail later. That's going to give us, make this part fit around the top of the ornament. That's why you're going to be able to do this, use 2 different size ornaments here. You can use the 2.5 or the 3.5, and either one I think will work really well. It's just tightening this up, so we're going to do that last. We're going to start with these units right around here. Okay, so I have my needle all threaded, my stop bead on, and I'm going to pick up and drop down to my stop bead, 3 11/0s, a super duo, 3 11/0s, a super duo, 3 11/0s, a super duo, 3 11/0s, and a super duo. So we have alternated the 11/0s with the super duos, and this is what it looks like. Drop those down. to my stop bead. That's what it looks like. Let me just move this out of the way and pull in a little bit. So now I'm just going to sew this into a circle. So I'm just going to sew up through the 11 O's after the stop bead and the super duo. Like that. And then I'm going to reinforce this all around. So for the next 3 11 O's, the super duo, 11 O's, super duo, and so on. I'm going to pass my stop bead and my tail thread just to get a nice connection going there. And then I'm going to keep going a little bit and sew through that super duo that's past the stop bead, and you just want to make sure that's a nice snug unit. Okay, so I'm holding my piece like this where my thread is coming out of this hole of this super duo on this side, so that's, let's call it the top hole. I'm going to pick up a 6mm pearl, and I'm going to sew through the bottom hole, right through that bottom hole of the super duo that's on the other side of the unit. So I've gone from the top here to the bottom here, and that just holds the pearl or whatever bead you're using on nice and straight. It's like that. I'm going to sew through the next 3 11 O's on the super duo. And now I have one of my units. Now I'm just going to sew down through the other hole of that super duo. Okay, let's continue. So we are exiting this bottom hole of the super duo. I'm going to pick up and drop down to my stop bead, 3 11 O's, a super duo, 3 11 O's, a super duo, 3 11 O's, a super duo, and 3 11 O's. So I have 4 groups of the 3 11 O's, and in between them I have 3 super duos. I'm just going to sew through the other side of the bead I'm exiting. It's going to put another unit on. I'm going to reinforce this unit by going around. Like so. So now I have another unit on. I'm exiting the bottom hole of this bead. I'm going to pick up a pearl, and I'm going to go through the top hole of the bead. So you're just going through the opposite hole of the bead on the other side. So coming out of this one, going through the top of this one. Pull that pearl into place. Now, just a note, at any time that you feel you want to go around again and reinforce your unit, you can. Might be a good idea. Otherwise, I'm just going to pop up through the next super duo like that. So if you want to, just reinforce again. So I have 2 units on. It's like that. So what you're going to do now is you're going to continue adding these units, just like we did, until you have 7 pearls on and 7 units, and then come back and we'll do number 8 together. Okay, so I have my 7 units on, and now we're going to make this into a circle by adding another unit on, an 8th unit, using the bead we're coming out of and the bead on the other end of our, that very first unit. So I'm exiting in the bottom or top, whichever you want, wherever you are, of your super duo. I'm going to pick up 3 11 O's, a super duo, and 3 11 O's. And I'm exiting here, I'm just going to sew through that super duo, from the very first unit, like that. Then I'm going to pick up 3 11 O's, a super duo, and 3 11 O's. And I'm going to go right back through that original bead. In a second, and that is going to put another unit on. It's a little wonky at the moment. We have to reinforce this, so go all the way around all your beads. like so. Now I have that unit on. We'll put our pearl on. Sitting here, just going to sew through the other side of the bead on the opposite side to sit my pearl right there. Give it a pull. And now we'll have number 8 unit on, and I'm just going to reinforce this unit. I'm going to go all the way around, and I'm going to clip this thread off because I'm going to start a new thread for our next round. So get that done, come back, and we'll start our next round. Before we do the next round, let's deal with the tail thread. So I've taken off my stop bead and threaded my needle. I'm exiting one of these 11-ohs here. I just want to get to the top super duo up here, top hole of this top super duo of this unit. So by doing that, I'm just going to do that. And then I'm ready to tighten up the interior. Okay, so I've taken my piece and I've just put it on top of the ornament and pressed it down. And then I just want to look around at the top and see what's going to fit there. Now, sometimes just the bicone will fit. We're going to put a bicone in there. Sometimes one bicone will fit in between each super duo, but sometimes it won't. So it really depends on how big this part is. And you know, they're not going to be exact because each one I've done, I've put a different number of beads on. So I think I'm going to take an 11-oh, a bicone, and an 11-oh, and I'm going to sew through the next one. And then I'm going to take a bicone without the 11-ohs and sew through the next one. And I'm going to do an 11-oh, a bicone, and an 11-oh. I'm going to sew through the next one. And I don't know if this is going to fit perfectly, but I did try just one bicone in between, and there was a little thread showing, and I didn't like that. So I'm just going to alternate putting the 11-ohs in between and just a bicone in between. So you'll play with this. It just depends on the ornament you buy and how wide this area is right here. There. And then 11-oh, bicone, 11-oh. Well, I think this is going to work. And then just a plain old bicone between, pop through several of the beads again. And let's see how that worked out. Oh, that's perfect. Okay, that came out perfect. So I'm very happy with how that looks. So you're just going to have to play with that closure part and see what fits best. And then I'm just going to sew all the way around, tie in my threads, and then we'll add a thread on and start our next one. Okay, we're back. So so far we've done, so here's it's on the ornament. We're up to here. So on the completed piece, we've gone up to here. So the next round we're going to put on are going to be these super duos right here. So I've taken the piece off the ornament. I'm just going to hold it this way. So I've threaded my needle with about 4 feet of thread. I put on a stop bead and left enough of a tail to sew in. So I'm just going to sew through the bottom hole of any super duo, and of any bottom super duo, like that. Okay, I'm going to pick up an 11-oh, a super duo, an 11-oh, a super duo, an 11-oh, a super duo, and an 11-oh, and I'll show you what I have on my needle. That's what I have. So I have 4 11-ohs and 3 super duos in between them. So I'm starting with an 11-oh and ending with an 11-oh. So here I'm exiting right here. I'm just going to sew through the other side of the bead I'm exiting to make a unit. So it looks like. Now I'm going to reinforce this unit all the way around. It's going through all the beads. And right through the super duo again. stop bead out of the way. Like that. This is what I have. So I'm exiting this super duo, the bottom hole. I'm going to sew through the top hole. So I'm kind of reversing direction, just going around. And then I'm going to work my way to this super duo. So I'm going to go through these 3 11-ohs, up the super duo, down the other side of that super duo, through this guy and the super duo, and then this one. Now I'm going to pick up an 11-oh, a super duo, 11-oh, super duo, 11-oh, super duo, and 11-oh, just what I picked up before. Like that. I'm going to sew through the other side of the super duo I'm exiting. I'm going to sew all the way around my beads again to reinforce, coming right through the super duo again, like that. And then I'm just going to sew, I'm coming through the bottom hole, I'm going to sew through the top hole of that top super duo, and then I'm just going to work my way to the next one, and I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it all the way around. I'll put it on here so you can see what it looks like. I'm going to do it all the way around, and that's what the next round is going to look like. So keep adding on your little units, and then come back and work on the next unit. Now, if you have leftover thread and you want to continue with that thread, you can do that. I'm giving you an extra long thread because you don't want to get stuck in the middle and have to add thread in, you know, in a really delicate area. All right, so get those done, come back and we'll continue. Okay, so I finished all my units, and here was my last one, and I just went forward and came out, you know, this one as though I was going to add another one, but of course one is already there. So I just want you make sure you know, continue on to the unit, the very first unit. We're exiting here. I just want you to come down and exit the bottom super duo right here. So let's leave it on the ornament. Sometimes it's easier to hold it on the ornament to make it. Sometimes also I put it in a little, like one of those little cups like you would get creme brulee in. I happen to have a few of those, and sometimes they'll fit exactly in there so you can hold it. So this is what it looks like. This is where I want you to be exiting. I have a lot of thread left, so I think I'm going to continue with that. So I just want to show you on our finished piece where we're going next. So here it is. It doesn't want to stay. All right, so here we've just put this round on, so the next one is going to be this one. All right, so let's start that. Okay, let's start our next round. So I'm exiting right here. I'm going to be going in this direction now, kind of reversing direction, you know, every once in a while. So I'm exiting here, the bottom hole of this super duo. I picked up and I'm dropping down to my stop bead, 5 11-oh seed beads, a bicone, a super duo, a bicone, and 5, add 3 more, 5 of my 11-oh seed beads. There we go. Let's make sure I have 5, just like that. And you're just going to sew through the bottom hole of the next super duo. Like that. Again, 5 11-ohs, a bicone, a super duo, a bicone, and 5 11-ohs. Exiting here, just going to sew through the next one. So very easy round. We're going on this one. So you're just going to do that all the way around till you get back to here, and then we'll start another round. Okay, Okay, we're back. We're going to put our last group on. So I have my 511Os bicone, super duo bicone, and 511Os. Exiting here, I'm just going to sew through that original one, and I'm just going to keep going till I come out the super duo like that. You want to make sure everything is nice and snug and you don't have much thread showing. If you want, you can, just to kind of tighten this thread down a little bit, you can go around a couple more units. That way that this thread, you know, that round won't loosen up. We're going to sew the thread in. Let's see if I can get through this guy. There we go. Come on, you. Okay, fighting me a little bit, but that happens. Okay, there we go. All right, so that kind of tightened it up a little bit, and everybody looks pretty good. Now I'm gonna sew through. Actually, you're gonna need to add thread here, so rather than sewing through this one, I would just continue sewing around and then sew this thread in. And then we'll start a new thread because we have a bit of weaving to do and we want a little more thread on our needle. All right, so get to this point and then come back and we'll start another round. Okay, let's get another round on. So this round is actually not going to take much thread because we're just sort of, we're not really weaving much. We're going to just sew around, but the next round will need more thread. So you can just add a small amount of thread here to get this round done and end it off, or you can add maybe 6 feet and do this round and then the next round. It's up to you. So here I threaded my needle. Here's my stop bead. I'm sewing directly through the bottom hole of this super duo. I'm going to add 1 bicone, 6 11Os this time, a super duo, 6 11Os, and a bicone. I'm going to sew through the next super duo, just like that. I'm going to pick up a bicone, 6 11Os, a super duo, 6 11Os, and I'll show you in a second, and a bicone. There we go. That's what I have on my needle. I'm going to sew through the next super duo. So this is what I have. I'm going to do that all the way around until I come back to where I started, and then we'll continue on with the next round. Okay, I'm coming down to my last group. So it's going to go here. Just going to sew through this super duo. Okay, and that completes this next round. And then I'm going to sew through, so I'm exiting the bottom hole of that super duo. I'm just going to sew through the bicone, the 6 11Os. Like that. And if you feel like you need to reinforce a little bit, you can keep going around. But eventually, I want you to end up sewing through the bottom hole of a super duo. Like that. And that's the end of that round. Okay, let's work on the next round. So you're either adding a thread or you have a long thread left over. So I'm exiting the bottom hole of this super duo. I'm going to pick up an 11O, a super duo, an 11O, a super duo, an 11O, a super duo, and I'll show you in a sec, and an 11O. So here I have 4 11Os with the 3 super duos in between. So I've started with an 11O and ended with an 11O. Just going to sew through the other side of the super duo I'm exiting to make a unit like that. I'm going to, actually I have to take it off here. So here we go, there we go. I'm going to sew around my unit. So I'm coming out of this super duo again. And then I'm going to reverse direction by going through the, I'm coming out of the bottom hole of this super duo right here. I'm going to sew through the top hole, through all the 11 O's and this bicone right there. And so I've put on a 1 unit and I'm exiting this bicone right here. Okay, time to add some drops on. So I've picked up, show you in a sec, here we go. Okay, I picked up 2 11 O's, my red drop, and 3 11 O's. I'm just going to sew back up through the bottom, and those 3 11 O's are going to decorate the bottom. Make sure that they make a picot, a little picot down there, and of course hold your bead on. And then I'm going to sew, I'm exiting the drop. I'm just going to sew through 1 of the 11 O's, like that. I'm going to make sure I pull it so it's snug. I'm going to pick up an 11 O, and I'm going to sew through this next bicone, all the 11 O's and the super duo. That should sit that like in a little 3 bead unit on top of my drop, and then I'm exiting this super duo. The top here, I'm going to sew through the bottom. So that's going to be our sequence for the rest of this round. We're going to put this one on next, right here, and then a drop here. The next super duo unit here, and a drop here. And you're going to do that all the way around till you get to the end, and then come on back and we'll continue. Okay, so I added my last drop, and then I've just sewn through the 6 11 O's and through that top hole of this. That's the very first unit we had put on. And I'm just going to end off my thread here. So just sew through your beads, you know, tie a couple of half hitch knots, and then you will be done with this round. Looking pretty good, right? And then we'll start another one. Okay, let's move on. So we are here. So that would be right here. So now we want to add this bicone round on. So we're going to do a round of bicones, and then the last round we're going to add the pearl drop, the crystal drop, the pearl drop, the crystal drop, and then we'll be done. All right, so thread your needle with a, you can do a short amount just to get the bicone round done, and then tie it off, and then a larger amount for the drops. So whichever you like, or like I said, you can always put on a super long thread and go as far as you want. All right, so thread your needle, and then we will start the next round. I threaded my needle, and I put on a stop it. I came through the bottom hole of this super duo. So I've added to my thread an 11-0, a bicone, 11-0 bicone, and I did that all the way down till I had 7 bicones on, and you're going to have 8 11-0. So you're going to add an 11-0 at the end. So you'll start with an 11-0, you'll end with an 11-0, you'll have 11-0s in between 7 bicones. What we're going to do is sew through the next super duo. So the next bottom super duo of the next unit. This is what it looks like. So just like that, you're just going to repeat that all the way around. You're going to put on the sequence, sew through this one, same sequence, sew through this one, and so on until you get back to the beginning. And if you want to just tie off your thread at this point and add a new thread for the last round, you can do that. Or you can just sew, if you have lots of thread on your needle, you can sew through 1, 2, 3, number 4 bicones. So the 11-0s and the bicones exiting number 4 bicone of that very first group of bicones you put on. Okay, so here I'm done with my bicone round, and just a little note. So when I came through my last super duo, instead of going straight through and out number 4 bicone, I went through the super duo, bottom hole, top hole, and then bottom hole again, and then out and came through number 4 bicone, you know, I went through all the beads and exited number 4 bicone. And that kind of locked them into place so they don't get loose as you move on. If you're just using a new thread, you're just gonna, you know, put your thread on and sew through the bicones until you're exiting number 4 bicone of the group of 7. Okay, let's move on to the last round. So I'm exiting number 4 bicone right here of the group of 7. So I've picked up and dropped down my thread 4 11-ohs, a bicone, 1 11-oh, my purl drop, and 3 11-ohs. So this is what I have. I've dropped that down to the work. I'm just going to skip those 3, sew through the purl drop, the 11-oh, the bicone, and 1 11-oh above the bicone, like that. Let me just pull it a little bit. So like so. And I'm just going to pull my needle through. And the thread, and just pull it all the way through. I'm going to pull it, move this guy out of the way. I'm going to pull it pretty tight. Make sure you make that picot at the bottom. And then I'm going to pick up 3 11-ohs. And I'm going to sew through the other side of the bicone that I'm exiting. So, like so, through the bicone, and then, you know, just down a couple of beads just to set this in place. So that's what it looks like. Now I'm just going to keep sewing through my bicones until I get to the last bicone before that 11-oh, like that. Oh, do you hear my little kitty crying? She wants to come in. So this is what I have. So that's what you're going to do, and then come back and we'll put the drop on. Okay, let's add the crystal drop. So just to tell you, I opened the door to let my little kitty in, and what she did was just stood at the entrance and won't come in. So she's just standing there staring at me. Cats. Oh, love them. Okay, so I'm exiting this bicone right here before the seed bead. I'm going to pick up 2 11-ohs, my drop, and 3 11-ohs. I'm going to skip those 3. And pull my thread through. Like that. I'm going to sew through this 11-oh on top of the drop. I'm going to pick up an 11-oh and sew through the next bicone. That's going to set that drop into place, and I'm just going to move my thread till I exit the number 4 bicone of that next group of 7. So this is what it looks like that. So you're just going to repeat what we just did. So you're going to repeat this purl drop over here, and then you're going to move your thread over to the end bicone, and you're going to repeat this drop over here, purl, crystal, so on and so on until you get all the way down to the end. And then meet me back here and we'll finish. Okay, I'm coming down to putting on my last drop. So I have all my beads on. I'm sewing up through all of them, coming out of that first bead on my above my drop. Then I'm just going to pick up an 11-oh and sew through, just like we've been doing, the bicones. So now I have all my drops on, and then what you're going to do is, of course, you're just going to sew around and put some half hitch knots in until, you know, it's nice and snug and everything looks good. And then come back and we'll put it on the ornament, see how it looks. Okay, here are our little beauties, and aren't they adorable? So here's the one we made. My camera points down, so you're only going to see it from the top, so I'll hold it like this. Isn't that pretty? I just think they came out great. So that's the smaller one. Here's the larger one. I love the purple and green. Almost like look like little butterflies in between. And here's the one with the mini round duos, which I just adore. So that was fun. I'm going to make them for everybody I know because they're just a blast to make. So coming up in the next clip is this little ornament hanger. So I'll show you how to make these if you would like to make your own hanger. So don't go away. We'll work on this. Okay, let's make a wire hanger. We'll start with this one for the ornament. So I have various tools. I've got a wire cutter, I've got a flat nose, I've got a round nose. Just have all your tools handy. And then I have, this is a actual, like a wire straightener. And so after you take a piece of wire off your spool, and cut it, you can use this to straighten it and harden it a bit. Now, if you have all the wire tools where you have a little like anvil thing and you can, bang it until it it gets hard. I don't have any of that stuff, so I happen to have this, so I use that. So I cut about 6 inches of craft wire. This is 20 gauge. This seemed to work pretty well. It's by Beadsmith. So there are pliers that are bale. I think they're bale making pliers, and they're big cylinders, metal cylinders, and you can, it makes a perfectly round edge, so you can, if you have that, you can use that, but I'm gonna make do with what I have, which is a pen. So this pen is great because I can make them both ends the same size, because I'm gonna just wrap it around here, so this is gonna stop it from moving. So I'm just gonna take one end, I'm just gonna wrap it around my pen, just keeping it against there, and I'll just go past a little bit. All right, so that's what I have. And I'm just going to cut off some of that end till it's in, on the other side of the wire here. So kind of like that. And then I'm going to take my round nose pliers. I'm just going to put it at the tip. And I'm not going to go down too far. I don't want a huge loop here because it has to fit through that ornament, the top of the ornament, right? So I'm just going to make a little decorative loop at the end. So I'm just twisting my piece around like this until it meets like that. So now this is what I have. I'm just going to kind of bend it down just a little bit, this part, like so. So this is what we have so far. Okay, now I'm going to do the other side. So I'm going to turn it this way, and I want to go in this direction, but I think it's a little long. So I'm going to, actually I'll measure it to the one I did before. So I want it similar length. So I think I'll cut to about here so that I can bend this part over. So I'm going to take off about 1 inch. So this is really, you have to sort of eyeball it here. So I'll take off about 1 inch. And I don't think the length really matters unless you're selling them, and they all have to be exactly the same. And then I'm just going to put my wire against my form again. So that's my pen. And I'm just going to judge about how much I want, and then I'm just going to wrap that wire around like I did with the first one. This is what I have. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this side. I'm just going to make a little loop over here like that. And you can use, if you have these sort of the rubber pliers here, you can use that to sort of straighten it out a little bit. A little cut. Okay, so that wasn't perfect. I'm not super good at this. So this part's like a little bent to me, so I'm just gonna try to straighten that out a little bit. Oh, that's not bad. This was my best one so far here, but you know, you can play with it until you get it. It's not bad, but this one happened to come out really good. So you'll probably end up doing it a few times. I'll pop it on. So this is what it looks like, and it's not bad. So now you've got a little hanger for your ornament, which works out great. You can, like I said, you can sort of play with that and straighten it out a little bit. All right, so let's do the one with the I've taken a piece of wire, you know, about 5.5, 6 inches, and I didn't show you before how to straighten it. So if you have your wire straighteners, I just hold it with the flat nose pliers, and then I just run this pliers, the wire straighteners, whoops, you know, over until it straightens it out. And you can do this for a while, and it's supposed to, I think, harden the wire a little bit. So I'm just, that looks pretty straight to me. I'll cut that little end off right there. So now my piece looks pretty good. So I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm just going to wrap it around my form, which for me is a pen, like that. I'm going to clip off like a little of the excess there. That's what it looks like. I'm going to make my little loop at the end. And then I'll just use the pliers to sort of straighten it out. I'm going to make sure that touches. So that's what I have. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take my little chain nose or flat nose pliers, and I'm just going to put them right here, and I'm just going to do a little bend this way. So that's what it looks like. Now I'm going to pick up some beads. So I'm going to take, you know, any bead you like. I'm using a 6mm. And I pop this rondelle on. Well, that one I'm not too crazy about. It's a little too big. So I'm going to do a 6mm, a little 8mm, and a 6mm. You can just put one bead on, and that would work just fine. And now I'm going to do my other end. Okay, let's make the loop on this end. So you have to be a little more accurate here because you want it to sort of meet those beads. So I'm just gonna, oops, here we go. Just gonna pull it around like that. And let me just pull it this way. I could have cut a little off the end there. Okay, there we go. So we'll just pop it like so. This one's a little, they never come out the same for me. Then I'm just gonna cut a little bit of that off. I'm going to just take my pliers again. I'm just gonna bend it this way a little bit, seeing that way it'll hold the beads on. And then I'm gonna do my little decorative ring here at the end. Here we go. And then I'm going to try and sort of straighten this guy out a little bit because it didn't come out as good as the other one. So if I do that, give it a little pull a little bit. Okay, chalk that out a little bit too much. So this is all like, you know, learning how to do this so that it comes out good. Actually, that didn't come out bad. I mean, I'm no expert at this by any means. So here you go. Here's your next one. So that's the one with the beads. you can kind of pop these in a little bit and, you know, play with them until the size is, you know, but I don't think I'll ever get both loops exactly the same size unless I, you know, did a ton of practice, which I really haven't been practicing that much with this. So there you go. So this is a simple hanger if you want to make a hanger. All right. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.